se obratimo nekoliko minuta samo da welcome everyone that's here, especially poštovana senatorka Concetta Fierravanti-Wells i poštovani Kevin Connolly i svi ostali dragi gosti. Hvala vam na vašem odazivanju. Okupili smo se da proslavimo događaje koji su desili 31. avgusta ove godine. Dogodio se jedan veličanstveni događaj gdje je naš narod na jedan mirni, demokratski način pokazao našu zrelost da konačno posle 31 godine smijenimo čovjeka koji je bio na čelu naše države. Kao što je rekao naš sadašnji premijer Savo Cupac, citirat ću što je on rekao, kaže: "Narodu Crne Gore desila se sloboda. Nakon 31 godine apsolutne vlasti moralo se desiti ovo što se desilo. Ko udari na Boga i svetog Vasilija Ostroško, ovako mora i da prođe." Mjesecima uz pomoć naše Srpske pravoslavne crkve na jedan mirni, dostojanstveni način smo pokazali svijetu da mirom možemo da postignemo sve ono što se nekad postizalo sukobom. I to je svima nama itekako drago da smo mi postigli ono što smo htjeli da postignemo uz sve napore što je opozicija pokušavala 31 godinu. Ne damo svetinje, ne damo sveto Vasilija Ostroško, sveto Petra Cetinskog. Crna Gora mora da pokrene reforme koje očigledno su trebale da se dese prije dugo vremena i ovo je samo jedan dio posla koji predstoji pred nama. Svim nama koji smo se okupili ovdje da pomognemo naš narod koliko je god moguće na jedan miran, dostojanstven način, jer pomoć im je itekako potrebna. Svi volimo, na drugu stranu, svi volimo Australiju. This is our home. And it's this country that is showing us how democracy works and what one can achieve in a democratic society. Uživajte večeras u ovom programu. Volio bih isto da u ime svih nas da se zahvalim organizatorima koji su organizovali sve ovaj okup. I jedno što bih želio da naglasim, da budemo vrlo pažljivi kako da sprovedemo mjere protiv COVID-19, da držimo distancu i da se normalno provedemo jedan najljepši mogući način sa sjećanjem na naš narod koji trenutno prolazi kroz jedne velike promjene u njihovim životima. Hvala i fino se provedite večeras.
Senator, the Honourable Concetta Fierravanti-Wells, the Honourable Kevin Connolly MP, dear guests, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome you. I would kindly ask that we respect the rules in preventing the spread of COVID-19. Please ensure there is adequate space between yourselves. Use hand sanitisers. You can find hand sanitiser on every table. Tonight we have gathered to celebrate an important event that happened on August 30th in Montenegro. On this day, the democratic will of the people won after 31 years of authoritarian rule. The government changed without conflict nor a drop of blood. That's something that we can be proud of. The citizens showed a desire for peace, a better future, and good relations between all, regardless of nationality and religion. The victory of the opposition marked the importance of Christian values. The leader of the Bloc for Future of Montenegro, Professor Savo Cupac, said on the night of the election, "Freedom happened to the people of Montenegro." After 31 years of absolute rule, what happened had to happen. Whoever strikes at God and St. Basil passes like this. For months, people joined the liturgies in cities across Montenegro with one message: we will not give you our shrines. We will not give you the St. Basil of Ostrog or St. Peter of Cetinje. Quite simply, the churches and the saints of this land belong to the Serbian Orthodox Church, not the government. Montenegro can now start implementing necessary reforms, the rule of law, strong democratic institutions that are critical priorities for this government. This is only part of the job, but such changes will certainly bring better conditions of life in Montenegro. We want Montenegro to be like Australia in terms of living standards, economic developments, democratic institutions, and the respect for human and religious rights. We all love Australia because it has given us an abundance of opportunities for us and our children. But of course, we cannot forget who we are and where we come from. We hope you enjoyed tonight's program, and thank you once again.
Želio bih da vam predstavim gospodina Stanoje Zoranovića koji će otpjevati dvije ustorske pjesme za sve nas.
Senator, the Honourable Concetta Fierravanti-Wells. She has served as a Senator for New South Wales since 2005. Since her time as Senator, she has fought consistently for conservative values. Everyone knows where she stands and what she believes in. She's a passionate Christian and a selfless advocate for the community. Senator Concetta Fierravanti-Wells was Minister for International Development in the Pacific, where she worked tirelessly to protect Australia's national interests. Ladies and gentlemen, let's make her feel welcome.
Can I start by acknowledging my friend and state parliamentary colleague, the Honourable Kevin Connolly, Parliamentary Secretary for Education and Member for Riverstone. We will be welcoming His Grace Bishop Silwan and shortly, but I'd also like to thank the various Reverend Fathers, Father Nenad, who is here with us now, Father Dejuro, Father Durkovic, Father Popovic, Father Bubanya from Dabdo Parish, where I grew up in Port Kembla, and the Milosevic brothers and all the other members of the Serbian Orthodox Youth Association, and of course our dear young friend Nikola Popovic and members of the Montenegro and Serbian community here in Australia. Margaret Thatcher, Britain's first female Prime Minister and the longest serving British Prime Minister for over 150 years, once said that when people are free to choose, they choose freedom. And so on the 30th of August 2020, despite the ravages of the coronavirus pandemic, the people of Montenegro participated in parliamentary elections. The people were free to choose. They chose freedom. They chose human rights. They chose democracy. And media reports show that over 3/4 of the population turned out to vote. The men and women of Montenegro, in their desire for justice and prosperity, chose the coalition of the Democratic Front. They chose democracy in the hope for a better future for Montenegro. On the 14th of September, when the final results came out from the 30th August parliamentary elections, Montenegro's opposition alliance, comprised of 3 coalition alliance partners for the future of Montenegro, Peace is Our Nation, and Black on White. And they represented 20 parties from across the political spectrum. Together, they won a slim majority, 41 of 81 seats in the election. And the result ends the near 30-year rule of President Jukanovic and the Democratic Party of Socialists. At the request of the authorities in Montenegro, the Organisation for Security and Cooperation in Europe was asked to send an election observation mission. OSCE noted the elections took place in an environment highly polarised over issues of church and national identity, and most especially the so-called law on freedom of religion or beliefs and the legal status of religious communities. The effect of this law was to bring the Serbian Orthodox churches under state ownership. And this law threatened state confiscation of property owned by the majority Serbian Orthodox Church if pre-1918 title to property could not be proved. The OSCE expressed concern that widespread abuse of office and state resources gave the ruling party an undue advantage against the opposition. Indeed, there were media reports of widespread identification, fraud, and election tampering. Religious freedom is very important. Its subjugation by the state, to the state, which appeared clearly the intent of this law, demonstrated once again the power of faith. Defence of one's faith is not just about freedom of religion. It is about freedom of thought. It is about freedom of conscience. And above all, it is about freedom of speech. As we too in Australia face issues regarding religion, freedom of religion, can I take the opportunity to thank publicly the Bishop and the Reverend Fathers for their support to this cause. They have joined with other faith leaders to push for protection of our freedom of religion in accordance with our international obligations, especially under Article 18 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. And it is clear that the Church in Montenegro has once again played a crucial role in turning the political history of Montenegro. Media reports indicate that the driving force of the election victory in Montenegro was the rise of the Serbian Orthodox liturgies, which were organised to protest peacefully against the religious property law. As former US President Ronald Reagan once said, freedom prospers when religion is vibrant and the rule of law under God is acknowledged. Recent events in Montenegro have once again reflected the accuracy of these words. On the 23rd of September, the Parliament elected a new Speaker and proposed the leader of one of the opposition groupings for the future of Montenegro, Professor Popovic. Thank you, please forgive my pronunciation, as Prime Minister. As a supporter of the Serbian Orthodox Church in Montenegro, he has been very well regarded. And of course, the President has now given the incoming Prime Minister a mandate to form government. And we hope that a new government will be finalised in accordance with Montenegro's constitutional processes. Countries around the world welcome the likely incoming government's commitment to maintain a pro-EU and a pro-NATO orientation. And although his party lost government, the President's current term does not end until 2023. In 1991, Milo Đukanović became Europe's youngest ever Prime Minister, and the people of Montenegro were filled with hope and excitement for a future based on democracy and the rule of law. However, he and his Democratic Party of Socialists ruled Montenegro and its people for 30 years, and with increasing allegations of corruption, political and economic stagnation ensued. And of course, after President Lukashenko of Belarus, he was the next longest serving leader. Forming and maintaining the new coalition government will not be easy, but the ambitious platform it has declared is a positive development for the people of Montenegro, as well as the peoples of Southwest Europe and the Balkans. The new democratic coalition government, in terms of its domestic agenda, has agreed to form an expert technocratic government, institute democratic reforms and root out corruption. Montenegro has a population of over 620,000 people, consisting of Montenegrins, Serbs, Albanians and Bosniaks. Critical to this agenda will be the need to to represent all the peoples of Montenegro, including minority parties that represent the interests of minority peoples, so as to ensure they become part of this new democracy. During the election campaign, there were reports of violent incidents by opposition supporters against ethnic minorities across the country. A genuine democracy needs to protect the majority as well as the minority groups. Violence in all its forms are tools of dictatorship, not democracy. The new Montenegro is a young and weak democracy. In June 2006, it became an independent country from Serbia. In September 2006, Montenegro established diplomatic relations with Australia. The non-resident accreditation to Montenegro is held by our ambassador in Belgrade in Serbia. Indeed, when I was Minister for International Development and the Pacific, I visited Belgrade in 2017. It was during that year also that Montenegro became the 29th member of NATO. Montenegro applied for European Union membership in 2008 and began EU accession talks in 2012, and in June 2020 there were final talks to join the EU. Now sure, with a GDP of about $5.5 billion, Montenegro is ranked 153rd largest economy in the world. Its integration into Europe provides opportunities for the future economic progress of the country. It is important that Montenegro becomes a mature and strong democracy that provides stability to a fragile and fractured Balkans region. The international community must support the growth and development of democratic and civil society institutions. And whilst the Montenegrin Australian community is a small one, its second and third generations are growing. They too are adding to the rich tapestry of our culturally diverse country. The first non-resident Montenegrin ambassador to Australia presented his credentials in December 2015. And as the daughter of migrants, myself, my parents came to Australia in the 1950s, I had the benefit of a bicultural and bilingual upbringing. The values of family and faith that were the cornerstones of my upbringing reflect the same values that I know are important to your community. Your community, both here and in Australia and all over the world, naturally will have an eye to the progress of democracy in Montenegro, and I am sure you will all lend your efforts to ensure the new government keeps on its pro-Western and democratic course. Indeed, I am sure that in whatever way that you can, individually or as a community, you will lend support. Diaspora communities provide an important link between Australia and the country of origin of their diaspora. Equally though, I would also urge your community to be civically engaged in your home country of Australia. Whilst Australia is a relatively young country, it is one of the oldest democracies. It is incumbent on all of us to ensure that the democratic way of life that we enjoy in countries thrives, and that all Australians, regardless of colour or creed, has a role to play. Can I conclude by thanking you for your very, very kind attention. I wish you all the very, very best and a very enjoyable evening. Thank you.
I would like to now introduce another special guest, the member for Riverstone, Kevin Connolly. Kevin won the seat of Riverstone with a massive swing of 30.2% in 2011 to become the first Liberal member of what was a Labor seat for 30 years. so he knows a thing or two about democracy as well. He is also an advocate for conservative values and a strong believer in the institution of family. Kevin works tirelessly for his community and has delivered exceptional results for the people of his electorate, including major infrastructure, hospital and schools upgrades. Please make him feel welcome.
Thank you, Nick. I'd like to acknowledge Father Menad and my colleague, Senator Conchita Vieira-Vandy-Wells. I'd like to thank the organisers of the event, Zoran Babonja, Rocco Dudrotovic and George Popovic, for the invitation to be here to join you tonight. And it's a great occasion to join you. It's always a pleasure to celebrate the progress of democracy, the spread of freedom, wherever in the world that might be. And I am excited to hear the good news from Montenegro that people there are now more free than they've been for many years. And it's no accident, it seems to me, that faith played a part in spreading and protecting that freedom. That hanging on to faith, the clinging to the goodness that faith in God brings, leads to good things for a people and a nation. And so I congratulate the Montenegrin people for the way in which they've grasped the opportunity to make a better future for themselves, and I hope a better future for those who come in that part of the world. As we've heard from the Senator, democracy flourishes when faith flourishes and when the rule of law is applied. And we are fortunate in this country that our history reflects the rule of law and has to date protected faith. While Montenegro has a very long history, it comes from a part of the world with great heritage, and Australia as a nation itself seems relatively young. Again, as Senator Vieira-Vandy-Wells pointed out, Australia's democracy is a relatively mature and old one. I sit in a House of Parliament which was convened for the first time in 1856 and is one of the longest running continuous democratic houses of parliament on earth, which is a remarkable fact that in this country we could do that. There are a few. There are a few other nations with longer serving continuous democracies, but we also know others which have had democracies and for a time lost them and have fallen to totalitarianism or autocracy. And it's a struggle to get freedom back, isn't it? So my thoughts today focus on that need to support, to sustain, to cultivate and curate democracy, because it's a fragile thing. It can too easily be lost. It's something we in Australia probably take for granted because we've grown up with it, we've not known anything different. Whereas people such as yourselves who have a heritage in places where democracy has not always been available know far better than most Australians that it's something precious to be grasped and protected. And one of the challenges that we have in this country to our democratic rights is the pressure, the insidious pressure that at times we come under to stop freedom of speech, to curtail, in some ways, freedom of religion, which is so closely related to freedom of speech. We have these rights, but if we are not careful, if we're not alert, if we're not strong in our defence of those freedoms that we have, we could lose them. And in both state and federal parliaments this year, parliamentarians are considering issues around freedom of speech. And in Senator Vieira-Vandy-Wells, you have a champion of freedom of religion who's attempting to keep that agenda item alive and not let people slide away from commitments that have been made. And the Senator deserves your support. And all of those parliamentarians who stand up for freedom of religion deserve your support to ensure that we deliver on promises that were made in the past which have not yet been legislated. And in the state parliament, we're considering a piece of legislation which would overcome a gap in our protections, where we have protection against discrimination on a whole lot of grounds, gender, marital status and disability status and so on, but no protection against discrimination on grounds of religion. And perhaps we didn't seem to need it years ago, but I think we do now. And so New South Wales Parliament will be grappling with that, and any support that communities of faith can give to parliamentarians to ensure that protection is made available is most important. We are the very fortunate custodians here in Australia of a wonderful legacy of freedoms. Freedoms that were established by our pioneers in this country, defended by those who fought for this country, and maintained by a legion of people across all walks of life who've observed the rule of law, who've upheld those freedoms, who've practiced them, who've implemented them through an impartial public service or upheld them in a vigorous free media. None of those things can be taken for granted. We need to pass on to the next generation the respect for all of those things so that our children, our grandchildren and those that come after them can enjoy what we have enjoyed here in Australia. So, to conclude, I would like to congratulate the people of Montenegro for taking a very important step, for stepping forward on the path that leads to the freedom of people, the better life that people are entitled to enjoy. I wish that country all of the very best, and it's going to need support from people such as yourselves. It's not a one-way street. There will be slippage and sliding and detours along the way. But with the support of other countries, with the support of the diaspora like yourselves, and goodwill from international organisations, Montenegro can enjoy a peaceful, free and prosperous future, and I think that's something we all wish. Good luck and best wishes for Montenegro.
Želio bih da pozovem jednog od organizatora skupa, Zorana Bubanju, da nam kaže nekoliko riječi.
I would like to call upon one of the organisers of this event, Zoran Bubanja, to say a few words.
Hvala. Dame i gospodo, uvaženi gosti, gdje god da odeš, otadžbinu nosiš u srcu, a moje srce je puno, jer moja otadžbina je slobodna. Danas, 30. augusta, parlamentarnim izborima u Crnoj Gori, ujedinjena opozicija je porazila vlast koja je u svom bezumlju krenula i na samoga Boga. Dugogodišnja diskriminacija Srbije u Crnoj Gori, kao i mnogim čestitim ljudima, došao je kraj. Kada dotaknete vlast posle 30-ljetne autokratije i nazadne politike koja je u Crnoj Gori dovela do rublja, egzistencije, donošenja sramnoga zakona o slobodi i vjeroispovesti, pokušali su da ostanu u imovini crkve naroda kome sve osim vjere oduzeto je ustao i rekao dosta je. Sabrali su u ovoj Crnoj Gori na desetine hiljada vjernika i svih drugih koji su okovani bodljikovom žicom. Režim godinama živi u strahu. U veličanstvenim kolonama su nosioci ikona mirno i dostojanstveno pjesmama i riječima stali u odbrani naših svetinja, našeg Boga i našeg korijena. U prvim redovima bila je i politička partija Prava Crna Gora, čiji je predsjednik gospodin Marko Milačić. Neumorno motivisano narod da skine lanac režima i izbori se za slobodu pukli su konačno lanci. Zbog čega danas stojimo ovdje ponosno u namjeri da sa vama podijelimo svoju sreću. I pijte sa mnom i radujte se, dragi prijatelji, pravoslavima. Danas je skupa, da proslavimo danas skup slobodne Crne Gore. Slava Bogu! I would like to thank our special guest for coming today. Is talking all our appreciation. I would like to present you with some gifts. Senator Concheta, please come to the stage. Kevin, please can come to that stage. Thank you.
Želim da predstavim gospodina Rada Radovića da izrecituje nekoliko stihova iz Gorskog vijenca od Njegoša Petrovića. I would now like to introduce you to Rada Radović to recite excerpts of the Mountain Brief written by Njegoš Petrović II. Njegoš was a famous leader in Montenegro during the mid-19th century. He inspired the people of Montenegro towards freedom and is considered the Shakespeare of the Slavic world.
Petar Petrović Njegoš bio je veliki vladika, bio je filozof, bio je pisac, bio je pjesnik i bio je nenadmašni vladar naše predivne Crne Gore. Za Petra Petrovića Njegoša zna cijela planeta, isto što zna za našeg Nikolu Teslu. Ja ću samo kazati nekoliko stvari koje je on napisao u svom velikom filozofskom dijelu Gorskom vijencu, koji govori o ljudskom životu, o ljudskom trudu, radu, mukama, stradanjima, radovanjima i uspjesima. Bez muke se pjesna ne ispoja, bez muke se sablja ne iskova. Junaštvo je carstva svakojega, al i piće najljepše duševno sa kojim se pijane pokoljenja. Blago tome, ko dovijek živi, imao se rašta i roditi. Vječna zubljo, vječne pomrčine, niti gori, niti svjetlost gubi. Gdje je zrno klicu zametnulo, onde neka i plodom počinje. Je li instinkt ili duhovni vođa? Ovde ljudsko zapire spoznanje. Vuk na ovcu svoje pravo ima, ko tirjanin na slaba čovjeka. Al tirjanstvu stati nogom za vrat, dovesti ga spoznanju prava, to je ljudska dužnost, najsvetija. Da je iđe brata u svijetu, da zažali ko da bi pomoga. Pomrčina nadamnom caruje, mjesec mi je sunce zastupio. Neka bude borba neprestana, neka bude što biti ne može, nek ad proždre pokosi satana, na groblju će iznići cvijeće za daleko neko pokolenje. A ja što ću, ali sa kime ću? Malo rukah, malena i snaga, jedna slavka među vihorove, Sirijak tužni, bez niđe nikoga. Moje pleme snom mrtvijem spava, suza moja nema roditelja. Nadamnom je nebo zatvoreno, ne prima mi plaća ni molitve. U ad mi se svijet pretvorio i svi ljudi pakleni duhovi. U dobru je lako dobar biti, u muci se poznaju junaci. Ko na brdo, a imalo stoji, više vidi no onaj podbrdo. Ja poviše nešto od vas vidim, to je sreća dala, ali nesreća. Zlo se trpi od straha gorega. Ko se topi, hvata se za pjenu. Nad glavom se nadodaju ruke. Ja sam prošao sito i rešeto. Ovaj grdni svijet ispitao. Otvori mu čašu, otrova mu čašu iskapio. Poznao se sa grdnim životom. Sve što biva i što može biti, meni nije ništa nepoznato. Što god dođe, ja sam naredan. Zla pod nebom, što su svakolika, čovjeku su pršija na zemlji. Svijet je ovaj tiran tiranin, a kamoli duši blagorodnoj. Niko srećan, a niko dovoljan, niko miran i niko spokojan. Sve se čovjek bruka sa čovjekom, gleda majmun sebe u zrcalo. Krst nositi vama je suđeno, strašne borbe svojim istuđinom. Težak vijenac, ali je voće slatko. Muž je branič žene i djeteta. Narod branič crkve i plemena. Čest je slava svetinja narodnja. Pao svakoj svome breme nosi, nove nužde rađu nove sile. Gdje svistija naprežu duhove, stjestenija slamaju gromove, udar nađe istru u kamenu, bez njega bi u kam očajala. Što je čovjek, a mora biti čovjek. Nebo nema bez groma cijenu. U fukare oči ko splačine. Pučina je stoka jedna grdna, dobre duše kad joj rebra puču. Teško zemlji kuda prođe vojska. Tvrd je orah, voćka čudnovata. Ne slomi ga, al zube polomi. Nije vino, pošto prođe bješe. Nije svijet ono što miljašte. Barjaktaru darivat Evropu, grehota je o tom i misliti. Velja kruška u grlo zapadne. A sad bih izrestovao jednu pjesmu koja se odnosi na Crnu Goru u ovom momentu i to je pjesma od Jovana Dučića. Moj dobri rode, svi su lagali i tvoj su vidik sav pomračili. Za svojom srećom samo tragali i svuda krali i sve tlačili. I mjesto mlijeka krv su sisali, u stradanjima tvojim dugima tvoje su svetlo ime brisali, da ne znaš ko si među drugima. S ubicama su crkve stvarali, s izdajnikom gorde tvrđave, u zakletvi te svakoj varali, na vodi digli moste tvrđave. Na zgarištu ti drže govore, na gubilištu podlo piruju, na bunjištima sade lovore i mrtve uče da sad miruju. Moj dobri rode, svi su rđavi, vapaj tvoj ne čuju što tuguje, izdajnik i sjadoš sad u tvrđavi, s ubicom žrtva sada druguje. Loman je rode most na provali, svud su u pričest otrov stavili. Poručio bih vlastima, novim vlastima i nadam se boljim vlastima u Crnoj Gori, da uvijek od sada pa nadalje pokažu da prave Crnu Goru kao državu u kojoj će biti svi slobodni njeni građani, koji će voljeti svoju majku, svoju Crnu Goru, koja je uzdizala uvijek njihova nadanja, koja je smanjivala njihove muke i čuvala ih od svih mogućih stradanja. Zato danas ovdje smo došli da mi proslavimo, da nazdravimo u vašu čast. Zato nemojte gubiti vrijeme, očekujemo od vas jednu novu Crnu Goru u kojoj će svaki njen građanin imati svoj topli dom. U to ime živjeli!
Thank you very much, Mr. Radovic. These are the words that inspired the Montenegrin people towards freedom in some of the most difficult times in Montenegro's history. In the 19th century, when Montenegro was fighting for its freedom and its independence. I would now like to call upon Father Nenad to give prayer before dinner is served, and also to say a few words about the situation in Montenegro.
Your Eminency, sorry, I will say just a few words in my Serbian language. Dragi narode, na pozivu Rakinom ja sam se odazvao kao i vi mnogi. A povod je ovo što se desilo u Crnoj Gori, da je konačno pao diktator Milo Đukanović. Znate, i oprostite, nešto ću izneti lično svoje, pa ako se ne bude neko složio, neka zadrži za sebe ili nek upita mene kasnije da mu objasnim. Ja sam se rodio u Federativnoj Narodnoj Republici Jugoslaviji davno, koja je kasnije postala Socijalistička Federativna Republika Jugoslavija. A onda sam došao ovdje kad se ta Jugoslavija, kad je propala, kad je raspačala, kad su je sve svetski moćnici razbili. A ja sam tu Jugoslaviju podržavao zbog toga što je srpski narod živeo u toj Jugoslaviji, znači u jednoj državi, i bio je zaštićen i od države i od crkve. Crkva je imala sedište u Beogradu, a vodila je računa o svim eparhijama u toj bivšoj Jugoslaviji, bez obzira kako su se te federativne republike zvale. Slovenija, Hrvatska, Bosna i Hercegovina, Crna Gora, Srbija i autonomne pokrajine Kosovo i Metohija i Vojvodina. I gledajte, kad sam došao u Australiju, to je bilo 1991. Jugoslavija se rasformirala i ostala je neka mala Jugoslavija. Samo da bi se sačuvao i zaštitio taj srpski narod, a to je bila Srbija i Crna Gora. Jer to su dve sestrinske države, to je jedan te isti narod. I nisu hteli da se razdvoje, hteli su da bude zajedno, pa makar se opet to zvala i Jugoslavija. I neka bude federativna od dve republike, Srbije i Crne Gore. I gledajte do čega je došlo, rasparča se i to i ostade sve jedna zemlja nezavisna i onda se počeše graditi nacije. Možete li vi zamisliti da u Bosni i Hercegovini je bilo 3 nacije, Srbi, Hrvati i muslimani. Sećate se da je bilo tako. Odjedanput nastaje nova nacija, pošto muslimani to je muslimanska veroispovest, pa trebaju da imaju naciju, pa se prozvaše Bošnjaci. Govore srpski jezik, a ne mogu postati nacija dok nemaju svoj jezik. Pa sada vidite, imamo bošnjački jezik. Od čistoga srpskog jezika, od naroda koji je bio srpski narod i sada samo da Srba nema. Što je najstrašnije, najžalosnije, najteže, najjadnije, najgore. U Crnoj Gori ovaj isti Milo Đukanović, diktator, tražio je načina kako da izgura srpstvo iz Crne Gore i na kraju došao do toga da udari na Srpsku pravoslavnu crkvu, da udari na svetoga Vasilija Ostroškog i gorko se prevario. Nije mitropolitan Amfilohije pozvao narod, niti vladika Joanikije, Nikšićki tamo, nego sveti Vasilije. I videli ste, braćo, kako se čudo desilo. Kakve litije, kakva famozna i ispovest naroda, izlazak naroda sa pesmom, sa molitvom, sa ikonama, u velikom broju, u miru i dostojanstvu, bez oružja. I vidi, taj diktator još uvijek misli da stoji na nogama i pokušava na sve načine da ostane, pa je došao do 40 poslanika, pa 40 ovde, pa 40 ovde. Samo još jedan i to dođe Šiptar da nam on deli sudbinu, hoće li na ovu ili će na ovu stranu. Sreća što sa Milom Đukanovićem nije bio u ljubavi, pa se okrenuo na ovu stranu, pa eto, hvala Gospodu Bogu, dobišmo i premijera i novu vladu Crne Gore. Dobismo Crnu Goru, koju ja nikada u životu zvati neću Montenegro, nego ću je zvati Crna Gora, a da nikad ne naučim jednu englesku riječ. Kako bi ja preveo, kakvi Montenegro, Crna Gora, Sparta srpska, Lovćen Njegošev, Jeno, Amfilohije reče i bit će svetinja i njegova reč je sveta. Vratit će se Njegoševa kapela na Lovćen i uće na grb Crne Gore, kako je nekad bilo. Živela Crna Gora!